Hi, I'm Ibby, and our Christmas episode of Kill the Cat comes with a bow. On this episode of Marvel Madness, we're looking at how Hawkeye incorporates some well-loved tropes of both the superhero and Christmas genres, while making them feel both fresh and earned. Spoilers ahead for Hawkeye and the MCU in general, but otherwise, enjoy the episode. Welcome to this episode. Kat is very excited. I think this is probably going to be one of your favorites.
We're talking about one of my favorite things of all time.
And that thing is Hawkeye.
Okay, as someone who has always liked Clint Barton and Hawkeye, which was like a weird thing to like for so long, I am so happy that not only does he and Kate get their own show, but in my opinion, it's the best of the Disney Plus TV shows so far.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. It feels like the one that had the best episodes, the best through line, the most consistent. It's quite contained, so some of the other shows we've talked about have had problems of like there's just too much going on by the finale and they couldn't wrap it up in a good way.
I felt like it ended. It was really nice. It had an ending, and I felt with like Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a good example. There was too much going on in that last episode, and then they like shunted things off like Taurus becoming Falcon and Walker becoming US agent. That's like all a setup for something else. Even in like WandaVision, like Monica Rambeau was sidelined a little bit because she needs to go be in the Marvels. And this just had good character arcs, went from end to end, had a good relationship arc, and it had an ending that made me feel like, yes, Kate or Clint could come back, but this part of their story is over. And I liked the post-credits scene. I know a lot of people didn't. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
My only addition to that post-credit scene would have been to like cut away to an Avenger. I would have liked to cut away to like Sam and Bucky would have been funny.
Yes.
I think Scott Lang would have been funny.
He would have been into it though.
Because he's been brought up a few times with the Pym Tech. Or I think cutting to Yelena would have been funny. Anyway, that's the last part of the series. There's a lot happens in the series before we get to the post-credit scene.
Yeah. One of the things that stood out to both of us, I think. I mean, you watched this series like twice before I got around to it.
I've now seen it 4 times.
The series is very tropey in a way that doesn't feel tropey.
So if you've listened to us for a while, which hopefully you have, you will know that we like tropes. Tropes is not an insult. We enjoy them a lot.
No, yeah. But there's times where they're done well and there's times where they're not done particularly well. And in this show, like there are a lot of real common, like it's a buddy comedy. So we get all the stuff you expect from a buddy comedy. It's a Christmas film about, a dad who needs to get home to his family on time for Christmas. It's also then got some of the markers of the classic like Marvel superhero genre. But none of these things feel tired. None of them feel played out. Like they all feel really fun and enjoyable and fresh. And you're not bored of anything because, I don't know, they've just found a way to make it feel earned. And so that's what we're touching on. Like, how do you earn the tropes that you use?
So yeah, diving into the show, obviously you don't know everything that's going to happen, but I would say it's fair to say you have a rough idea of what's going to happen. Clint and Kate meet, not going to get along at first.
They'll team up, they'll probably separate for a little bit.
They're going to have a fight, they're going to separate, then they're going to reunite for the big battle, and Clint is going to get home for Christmas.
Yeah.
You know all of that is going to happen.
They're going to be like the solution to each other's internal struggles so that they can both become better versions of who they are.
Like Clint literally says, there's people out there who make you better.
Despite all of that, all of those tropes feel really fun and like they lead to something bigger and better rather than just feeling like we're repeating what is normally done. And this show is campy as well in a little, like, I think you said it before, but like the show really feels like the most comic-y of the Marvel shows in just like, you've got the tracksuit mafia, which is just
so much. For anyone who plays Dungeons and Dragons, the tracksuit mafia are the kobolds of the MCU. That's my take.
It's a good take. But it's just like there's so much that is just like, this is ridiculous.
So this is drawn from like essentially the only comics run I've ever read. Like I'm into Marvel, I'm not really into the comics. But that is the Matt Fraction and David Aja Hawkeye run. Famously one of the best comic runs in Marvel. And it's like a really awesome combination of, like you said, it's very campy with stuff like the Tracksuit Mafia. But then it gets really dark and really depressing and... There's sort of this feel in the comics. This show is such a nice blend of the comics and the Marvel vibes.
Yeah.
It's like a good blend. But in the comics, there is this idea of anyone can die, anyone gets hurt. And if you get hurt, you don't get comic book hurt. So the first thing that happens in the entire Hawkeye run is Hawkeye falls off a building into a car and then is in hospital for 6 weeks. That is the first thing that happens to establish the tone. Like, even Lucky, the pizza dog, gets beat up a couple of times.
Aww,
I know.
You can't beat up the dog.
But they do, because that's the rules, because anyone can get hurt. This isn't quite that. Still got that Marvel vibe. I don't know, it's a tone that really works for me. I really like that sort of edge of like surrealism with stuff like the Tracksuit Mafia and like being a bit ridiculous. Oh my god, the fight scene.
Arrow?
Yeah, the trick arrows, the fight scene arrows? In the toy warehouse. Oh my god, ball pit sneak attack. And then on top of it, I just feel like this show has heart and really diving into Clint's trauma post-Endgame, and that's coming up against Kate's sort of more naive, optimistic view of the world.
Like, I'm going to be a hero and it's going to be amazing.
And then realizing it's not amazing. It's actually really, really hard, and she does it anyway.
Yeah. Do we want to go into some of the like tropes that we see from the sort of genres that this show brings in? So
let's chat about the buddy comedy. So there's actually a pretty good behind the scenes thing on Disney Plus. You can go watch for Hawkeye. It's about an hour long. And there's an alternate take of that scene where they're walking through New York and they basically tell you what the show is. When Clint's like, I'm not really selling anything. And Kate's like, that should make you cooler. I think this is a dig at DC. And he's like, but people don't want the dark and gritty serious thing anymore. They want heart on the sleeve optimism. In an alternate take, Katie's like, oh, come on. It's like the grizzled mentor comes back for one last case and like literally spells out what they're doing.
But they do that. You've got the mentor who's like hardened and like, you know,
beaten down, has a ghost. Really liked how we talked about this as well, and like we don't need a lot of origins for the current Marvel characters.
No, which is really nice.
So you can just walk into this and you have 10 years of Clint and Natasha history.
Yeah.
So it's not like this abstract thing of I lost my last partner. We saw that happen in Endgame. Like we know
how
heartbreaking
and
emotional that was.
Yeah, and we know the toll as well because we've been introduced to Clint's family, so we know the toll that it's taken on them. But yeah, then they're sort of forced together. Classic buddy comedy. In this case, because Kate takes the Ronin suit and now the Tracksuit Mafia thinks she's the Ronin.
Clint feels responsible for her now.
Yeah.
There's like a good blend there, I think, of he does feel responsible because it's the Ronin suit, but he's also just like, this is a kid who needs help.
Yeah.
So I'm going to help her. I'm a big fan of this Clint. I really enjoyed that. Even when he's like really exasperated with Kate, he's very gentle with her. He's not yelling at her, he's not calling her names, he's not insulting her. So like a really good example is like the first time they meet and the moment he sees her as a kid, he goes, come on, and like drops his fist, and then she's babbling and he's like, are you okay? And then later in the apartment, even though he's already annoyed at her, he does say, are you okay? Like, by the way, are you okay?
Like, one of the things that stood out to me is how much they have to deal with, like, injuries. And
yes,
it's something
that's from the comics.
Yeah. But it's such a fresh take on, like, yeah, sure, Clint does all the action hero stuff, but you get that moment of like, how are you losing your hearing? And it's just like cut to like all the explosions he's diving through as an Avenger. And it's like, oh yeah, he's got hearing aids now and he can't hear without them.
They have to go to a drugstore to get supplies. Like Kate's expecting them to go to like Avengers Tower. And it's like, nope, we're going to go get everyday supplies. A lot of patching each other up scenes.
Yeah.
They're always hurt in some way. I also really like that scene where Clint shows Kate how to bandage a wound.
Yes. And like he's giving her the stuff that he's had to learn doing this for a long time. And it's like, he's done this without the support of the Avengers. He's been the guy on the ground, has just had to figure things out.
Because the whole comics premise is like, this is what Hawkeye does when he's not with the Avengers.
Yeah.
So they're forced to work together. Kate's a lot more excited about this than Clint is. I also really enjoyed how quickly they went from fangirling Kate to Kate being like, I'm awesome and you're awesome, so we're gonna be best friends. I think the line that did it for me is when like Clint's going back and she's like, yes, Clint, you may enter my apartment. Just first name terms, just right in there.
Yep.
Kate Bishop is a bit of a hard sell on paper. Because you've got to have like this plucky, upbeat character who's talented but not experienced.
Yeah.
And you have to sell that as likable and not annoying.
I feel like they did a really
They
good
did an
job.
amazing
Hayley
job.
Steinfeld is incredibly fun to watch in this.
So in that behind the scenes documentary, they talked about they wanted her fighting style to be someone who's very talented and has trained for a long time but has never been in a fight outside of a competition.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool.
Isn't used to the like dirty tactics that'll get used, and like that's how she often gets taken down.
And you see that in her very first fight at the auction. Like, she's doing okay, but you can tell she's new at this.
And then her overeagerness and inexperience have to then screw up the mission and cause problems for the mentor.
So Clint is like a few seconds away from totally clearing her name and ending everything. Kate very sweetly and good-heartedly thinks he's in real danger and then rushes in to rescue him.
And so then they're both stuck on the
So she gets captured and then Clint gets captured for real. And even then, like, Clint's annoyed. He doesn't get mad. Still doesn't get mad. And I think the thing that kind of put me onto this idea for an episode was that escape scene. When Clint is like, you're going to harness that ridiculous overconfidence. He breaks free, does his really fun action scene, fires an arrow to free her, and trusts that she's going to take care of herself. Then they get in the car chase and he's like, okay, she's actually a really good archer. I'm going to trust her, and they're going to work together.
And this is something that is fresh compared to a lot of buddy comedies where like neither of the two trust each other and they're like, oh, I'm better than you. Oh, you can't keep it. Clint almost immediately is like, oh, no, she's got the skills, so I'm going to trust her to do what she needs to do or to figure it out. The trick arrows chase scene is just incredible.
So what they did is they had Jeremy Renner and Hayley Steinfeld in the car, and then they had someone sitting like on top of the car in like a crane who was actually driving.
Yeah.
So that's how they got those like amazing 360-degree shots, because the car is actually being driven and going fast, but the actors don't have to drive so they can focus. That's one of the best action scenes in the MCU.
But also just like the fact that they have like the Pym Tech arrow that like makes the other arrow giant, and they like shoot the coordinated arrows, and just like the weird purple goo and that kind of stuff. Like, it's so campy and it's so comic-y. It's just a lot of fun.
And
we haven't seen that in Marvel.
That added dynamic of like the fun thing of like Clint cannot hear her.
Yes.
Which then leads to like those really sweet moments where like she'll say something, he doesn't hear it, but like a minute later he'll say the exact same thing. Just painting like these guys are similar.
Yes.
Clint doesn't want to acknowledge it yet, but they are.
They're like the same person. She's the perfect person to take the mantle of Hawkeye, right?
Yes, and
not that Clint's properly retiring, but he has stepped back from avenging, and so
just spend time with his family. Anyway, so things are going well. He calls her one of the world's greatest archers, which is a cute moment.
Yeah.
And then they start to grow closer, which we can see coming. So that's things like the scene at the diner where they have a very honest conversation where Clint is like, this is really hard. Like, I promise you this is really hard. You're going to lose things. It's a game of managing loss.
Yeah.
Kate challenges that with like, you get to gain things too. Not quite bonded. And then they have the extremely sweet Christmas montage. I need to talk about this montage.
Okay, go for it.
So I hate montages. Generally. This is how you do a montage. So again, it's this thing of like Kate realizes that Clint is alone in the Christmas season, basically because he's choosing to be in New York to help her instead of going home. And she brings him all the things he was going to do with his family. So ugly sweaters and movies. And she brings him like pizza, because that's and when she does the thing with the hat and the pizza, it's like, oh, this is the classic Hawkeye. That's one of the most famous panels from the comics. But talking about making tropes feel fresh, I just loved how Clint just invited her up. There was no kind of like bullshit about like, oh, I'm too grizzled and like I'm too emo and I'm in the background. Like, he lets her up and then he's grateful for it. And then he thanks her. Yeah. And I just like that there was no resistance. He just saw, this is someone trying to do a nice thing for me that he needs. Accept it.
Clint has a lot of emotional maturity. There's a lot of emotional maturity in this series, which I think, like, often drama comes from the characters who are emotionally immature, and that's the kind of battle they have to go through. But one of the things that we both outlined is like Laura and Clint's relationship is just a very mature relationship.
The best couple in the MCU. Right now, at the time of recording.
For now.
I was saying to you, all the other ones I liked are gone.
Yeah.
Which is Wanda and Vision, Tony and Pepper, and Peter and MJ. The others I'm a little meh about.
Yeah.
So yeah, Clint and Laura Barton. Another thing that really struck me on the first watch is when Clint calls home to tell Laura he's going to be another day. He does that many times. It's many days. And instead of getting mad or doing the more stereotypical, I can't believe you're standing the kids up on Christmas and like they need their dad, Laura just goes, okay, I understand. You sound tired. Ice your feet.
Yeah. Yeah, she trusts him to make the right decision, and she knows that he will need to remember to look after himself while he's doing it. And
Fully
it's little
supportive.
things like the icing the feet or just like...
And in return, Clint doesn't lie to her. And I feel like that could have been a really cheap way to get drama, which is like, oh, this guy is so badass and he's lying to his family. And no, he's not. And even the kids know what's going on.
Like, they're disappointed, but they understand.
They understand.
And that honesty makes it sadder. It's more heart-wrenching because you're like, oh, like everyone knows why this situation happens and everyone's okay with it. No one's causing a fuss, but it just sucks. Like, he's not home for Christmas for his family.
And this is after 5 years of them not being there.
Yeah.
So they don't say this out loud, but I feel like this is the first Christmas since the snap.
Yeah.
Again, I'm glad they don't go there. I feel like there was a lot of cheap drama they could have had and they didn't. So again, going back to that Christmas montage, the fact that there's no drama about it, like the fact that Clint just lets her come up and they have a really fun time.
Yeah.
So talking about earning tropes, when Clint can't get home to his family, I'm really invested in that because when I see him with his family, he's not bickering with them. He's not lying to them. They're not mad at him. We can talk about one of our favorite scenes now, I think.
Oh, probably the most heart-wrenching scene in this whole series is a scene when Nate calls Clint and Clint has lost his hearing aid. Like, it's been broken and he just can't hear. And Kate has to come and basically like interpret for him so that he can then like respond to Nate without sort of just hanging up. And Nate's sad that he's not coming back.
Nate is, I think he's about 5 years old, 5 or 6.
So he's young. He doesn't fully get what's happening. And it's just this heart-wrenching conversation. And I think that's where Kate first sees Hawkeye as like loving father and dad who now has to like actually sacrifice Christmas with his family because of something that she's done.
Yeah.
And he's not blamed her for it. He's not gotten angry at her about it. But she knows that she's responsible for this.
Yeah, and there's like a really deep sadness behind that scene as well. So when they end that Christmas montage where they finally talk about like Natasha and the blip and like, I also really enjoy that Kate just goes, you're Ronan, right? Like it's not some cheap reveal later. Like she figures it out in the diner and chooses not to say it in that moment. So when Clint is like saying there was no words and you're seeing them bond and he brings up Natasha for the first time with her, it's not some, oh, look at this like hard badass who actually has ghosts. It's just Kate seeing different layers.
Yeah. And
learning that, because Kate's journey is in this hero, like she has all the skills, she has the determination, but she needs to know how hard this is going to be. And you can tell when it happens because her hair's in a low ponytail.
Good job, hair and makeup. Storytelling in every element.
Because from a preppy, high, young ponytail to an older, more mature, lower ponytail.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's them bonding. They get close. Clint is starting to be like, I do actually quite like this person, and she's cool and she's very talented. Which leads to the next part of this formula, the split up. So inevitably in these kinds of things, there's a split up. It's generally the same for any, even rom-coms, there'll be the big... They've got to
have tension.
There's got to be the big misunderstanding and all that stuff.
In this case, it comes when Yelena comes back on the scene and she wants to kill Clint.
So she wants to get Kate out of the way. What does she do? She puts Kate on a wire and sends her off a building. Clint gets triggered because that's how Natasha died, falling to his death. And then he says, go home. So talking about Tropes, even though I knew that was coming, because it has to come, fully bought all of Clint's reasons. It didn't feel unfair.
He's gotten invested in this relationship. He's gotten invested in this connection. And then suddenly it's like, oh, this is like, as skilled as Kate is, as much as she can hold her own, not against the Black Widow. And he's not willing to even consider the idea of letting that go ahead. And so he just he ends it.
And we see we don't see, but we hear in Black Widow movie, like Clint and Natasha did take down the Red Room, they thought, together. Clint is fully aware what a Black Widow can do.
Yeah.
But he also says, I'm not doing it, which just kind of means I'm not going to let myself have a new partner who's going to die.
Yeah.
Not willing to go there. And when Kate is saying, I understand the risks, I understand all of that, she believes it, but it's not true yet. High ponytail. That's going to come later.
Yeah.
So, again, it just didn't feel contrived.
No, it felt genuine. And I think because we've been so honest about the relationship and they haven't done the kind of oh, I'm too grizzled for this young kid. He genuinely cares about her. When he says no, that means something. When he just flat out refused to let Kate take part, we know how serious that needs to be because he trusts her and he knows her skills and he believes in her. But he's not willing to let her go this far. And so
that's coming out of care and out of trauma. And we've seen both.
Yeah. And so it means more. And
it means more.
It takes the classic trope of what you'd see and elevates it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about reactions to that. So they spend an episode essentially apart.
Yeah.
There are two places where So Clint is a person, starting to mean something to Kate. But mostly Hawkeye, the hero, is what she has emulated for so much of her life. Because Chitauri invasion, she was scared. She saw him fight and went, I could do that.
Jump off a building.
Jump off a building even though he can't fly. And she went, I could do that. I could protect the people around me. I can protect my mum. So when she goes back to her mum and she's in tears and her mum does this have anything to do with Clint Barton? I love that her response is not anger, but no, mum, Clint protected me. She's not angry. She's really upset.
Yeah, of course.
And then we have the best scene in the show, I think, which is Yelena and Kate sit down to eat mac and cheese together.
Just Yelena throughout this show, incredible, and I want a show that is Yelena and Kate.
Hawkeye and Black Widow, give it to us,
We get
Marvel.
the movie, it's just not the original Hawkeye and Black Widow.
It's this Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Oh, I would pay good money for that movie.
They're great. Their chemistry is great. I feel like the creators of the show knew they had an amazing cast and just trusted them.
Yeah. And there's such little things about how petty they fight. When Kate presses all the buttons on the elevator.
Their fight scene later is great. Or just, Kate, this is not cutlery. I can't do a Russian accent, but...
It's just, I think they've got good banter.
They do have good banter.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think those two duos are going to be the two duos that are just quipping at each other the whole of whatever comes next for them.
So they have that whole conversation and Yelena tells Kate, essentially for the first time, that Clint is not a hero. Therefore, she has not been emulating a hero at all. She is not a hero. That's kind of the context of that conversation. Yelena says that Clint killed Natasha. We know that's not true.
Yelena doesn't know that because she wasn't around.
Yes. And Clint hasn't given Kate any details about how Natasha died.
Yeah.
So there's a line that really got to me, and it was just it's a small line, but it was another thing of I really buy this, which when Yelena says, you're so fond of him. And I'm like, yes, and we know why. Because he has helped her and stood up for her. She's seen the family side of him. And then she walks away and she chooses to become a hero, not for Clint anymore. She's not trying to be Clint anymore. But she's like, you know what? I do know what's right. I'm going to go out to Clint. I'm going to leave him all these voicemails. Go after him, saves his life.
Yeah.
They reunite and then we are into Act 3, the finale, where they're going to team up together.
Yes, and through the team up, they get to show off what they learned from each other, which is the classic. So there's a few more trick arrows, there's a lot of really great action and fights, and the chemistry and basically it runs pretty smoothly. And then they have their individual fights that they have to move towards. And they've learned from each other at that point. And so Kate's fight at the end is with Kingpin, and then with making the decision to turn her mum in, and then Clint has to confront Yelena.
Yes. So the build up to this is Clint finally reveals, like, yes, I can make more trick arrows. That's kind of been a little thing of being like, there are no more trick arrows. There are no trick arrows.
Yeah.
There are no more trick arrows. We can't make any more. To, I'm going to show you how to build.
Yeah.
Trick arrows. Clint overcomes his ghost with Natasha by saying, Kate, you're my partner. Risks having a partner to lose again.
Yeah.
So she's kind of brought down Clint's walls a bit.
And there's no way he can take on all the threats they have right now alone.
No.
He needs her.
He really does need her. They have their amazing team up with all the trick arrows versus the tracksuit mafia.
Yeah.
Super fun. Like you said, Clint puts on the costume she gets made for him, which is adorable. Yeah.
I love the whole, like, you just need to rebrand. Like, it's a branding issue. You're a great hero.
Great meta commentary on Marvel's treatment of Clint Barton, which has not been stellar throughout the MCU.
No.
I'm so happy they finally went to, like, the comics to draw. So, final battles. Instead of fighting Yelena, Clint chooses to be the hero that Kate sees him as. So this whole series, he's kind of caught between, like, I'm not a hero, I'm not a role model, because he was Ronin.
Yeah.
I did awful things for 5 years. And that conversation with Yelena is Kate finally realizes that and decides he's a hero anyway.
Yeah.
So instead of fighting Yelena, he uses empathy and shares and opens up about Natasha. She loved you so much, she wanted you to be safe. That's how he beats Yelena.
Yeah.
Ronin wouldn't have done that. Ronin was a weapon.
Yeah. Ronin would have tried to kill her.
Yeah.
Who knows who would have won.
And through letting go of Ronin, he also gets Maya kind of onto their side. So she takes on Kazi, defeats him. Maya's great. By the way, that actress, not an actress before this, they just put out a casting called, like, we need a deaf Native American woman of this age range. Yeah. Like, they needed a very specific person.
Yeah.
So she said that people just sent her that ad. And she's like, okay, I'm not going to get this.
And then she got it.
She's great.
She's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I sensed from, like, the get-go that, like, as you got to see her story, you're like, oh, I know where this is going. Like, she's going to, like, flip sides eventually. Yes. She's that character, right?
Which is going into tropes, like that superhero thing of, like, you have big bads, which is Kingpin, Tracksuit Mafia, Eleanor Bishop, but the more morally grey characters of Yelena and Maya flipped to the right side.
Yeah.
By the end.
And sometimes those characters seem like the initial big bad, and then they get revealed there's someone above them, and they have to turn against that person. So,
anyway, Clint becomes a hero.
Yeah.
Talks Yelena down. Kate initially defeats Kingpin using a trick Clint taught her, which is one of my favorite tropes ever. It's like a little thing that seems insignificant earlier having a massive payoff.
Yeah.
But her true victory comes when, she turns her mum in. And acknowledges, so her mum is reflecting what Clint's viewpoint used to be, which is, this is just the way the world works. The world is nasty, the world is cruel, you have to be this way. And Kate's like, actually, no, you don't. You don't. You can still be a hero. She now understands that's a lot harder than she thought it was going to be, but she's ready and she's mature enough.
And she's learned what she's needed to learn from Clint while maintaining her optimism.
Yeah.
Like, it's like she's faced her flaw without becoming Clint. Because Clint, I think, is still a little bit more cynical by the end.
Well, I think he's always going to be.
He's always going to be because that's who he is.
But he is willing to put on the costume and buy a bit more into Kate's worldview. If you want to see the opposite of this, you can go watch Seven, which is when Brad Pitt's optimism and hope for life gets entirely destroyed. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
And then we get the ending, which is kind of rounding out that Christmas shot. The dad gets home for Christmas in time.
Yeah.
He brings Kate and Lucky with him, brought home a couple of strays.
Yeah.
They burn the Ronin suit on a barbecue. Ultimate dad move.
Such a dad move.
And then Clint passes on the mantle of Hawkeye to Kate.
Yeah, so that he can retire.
Yes.
He won't really.
He
retire.
won't. He's tried.
No way.
He's tried
retiring.
a few times.
He's coming back.
Just going to throw this out there. I am really happy they didn't try to make Kate Clint's surrogate daughter. I was worried they were going to do that from the trailer.
Yeah.
I was worried that he was going to be like estranged from his family and had like issues with Lila Barton. Then he was going to go and bond with Kate and then bring that home and like be a good dad to his daughter again.
Well, we've also seen like the dad who's the family have left him, and he finds a new like surrogate child, and that's where he learns to be like a good dad kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm happy that Kate is treated as a new partner for him. He needs to overcome his ghosts around Natasha's death.
Yeah.
So does Yelena. And it's about that and not rebonding with his family. I just think that was the better choice. More original choice.
Do we want to move into some of the superhero elements of this?
Yeah, let's do it.
So you mentioned the Matt Fraction comics in your notes. I haven't read any of the comics.
They're great. They're so good. I love them so much. So those comic books are essentially what the themes of the show is, which is about like ordinary people. Obviously, Clint has amazing eyesight and the training. Kate has money. Kate had a privileged enough childhood and natural talent, but to do things like take archery courses and karate lessons.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's about ordinary people are able to do the right thing. They don't have superpowers and they fight the bad guys. Anyway, no matter the cost, there is cost. Clint gets deafened in the comics. Yeah, it's just a sense of duty to do the right thing, and doing the right thing sucks and is really, really hard. But at the end of the day, worth it, and you come out with the people you love.
I think in terms of handling tropes, like there's a lot of the big action sequences which are very superhero movie, and as we've been talking about, like the way they kind of earn those big moments is they actually acknowledge the stuff you have to do beyond that. In those comics where the opening is that he falls off a building, he doesn't just get to get up, he's in hospital for 6 weeks. And in this show, like, we have to see them bandage each other up, bandaging themselves up. He is in incredible pain for like so much of the whole show. They're beat up, they've got cuts on their faces. They just have to deal with that because they're on the mission. You don't get to recover until the mission's done. When
like Girls is like, oh, I have the new suits, do you want to see them? And Clint's like, yeah, not right now. And he's like falling asleep into Lucky because he's so tired. That, and when Kate reveals that the Black Widow assassin is Yelena, and Clint just goes, Yelena, and just in the most like tired voice just goes, okay. Just, all right.
Yeah. But, and I mean, I feel like we saw a little bit of this in Falcon and Winter Soldier, where it's like, you know, they're two guys who have to work together and they're bantering a bunch. In this, it's like, yeah, this is hero work, and like, there is a very real side of like they're still people doing the superhero work.
Well, even just, okay, small detail, love it though. The massive backpack Clint takes everywhere with him because he needs that many supplies. And it looks kind of awkward, and he's double strapping, and it looks a bit like schoolboy sometimes. But I'm like, no, he would need
he needs that much stuff.
Or Kate even mentions, how do you manage the bow? Like, how do you carry this massive bow around? And Clint's like, I have a collapsible one.
Yeah.
Kate's like, oh, that makes more sense.
What are some of the other things they have to deal with?
I had ordinary helpers to come in. So we got the LARPers. I forgot on the first watch that they were firemen and cops. Yeah. So at the end, I was like, I'm not sure I buy this. But then I remembered that like they're first responders. Yes, they can help him.
And they're first responders in New York.
Yes.
Who likely would have been there when the Avengers had to save New York. They were there cleaning up the messes. Like, yeah, they know who Clint is. The whole LARP scene was so much fun.
Side note, I like how Clint's an Avenger and technically a celebrity.
Yeah.
Probably could have just walked in there and gotten... But instead he's like, okay, these are first responders on their day off.
Yeah.
Don't want to cause a scene. Fun. I will LARP. And even Grills, like... There were many ways Clint could have gotten the suit back, but he chooses to be like, okay, I'll let you like have this moment of killing me.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's really sweet. And he gains a really good ally.
Yeah.
Out of that, because he was so good to them. He gets back up later, he gets Grills to look after Lucky.
Yeah. I love that Kate is then more reluctant to LARP than Clint was. Like, Clint was like, yeah, okay.
She's like, LARPing friends? So he's like, you're like them, they're colourful. Also, that very sweet line of like, I like to think of them as our arrows. And Clint just goes with it and goes, fine, can you please go retrieve our arrows?
Yeah, and then you put in your notes, like, there's also, they're just dealing with little inconveniences throughout. There's stuff that we don't see in hero movies, right? So you've got paperwork that has to be signed at the LARPing thing. As you mentioned, Kate with the bow. Like, how do you manage a big bow like that? And then like the Lapper not wanting to give them the bag. She's like, oh no, it's my bag.
Yeah, it's like, you didn't bring your own bag? And Clint's like, no. Because generally that scene is you just take the go bag and you leave. It's like, my wife got me this bag. And when Kate gets stuck on the zip line.
Yeah. It's just all these little things that they just give the time for. And that makes the superhero part of the genre a lot more entertaining.
Yeah, Kate's like, how am I going to get in this building? I will help this man with his groceries. This is an origin story, talking about tropes.
Yeah.
This is Kate's origin story as Hawkeye.
I think this is the best origin story they've done in the MCU. This is such a sincere and fun show. Yeah, I'm here for I am behind Kate 100%. I want her to succeed in everything she does, and I want to see more of her.
It made me think about how people say No Way Home is actually the ending of Peter's origin story as Spider-Man. Like, his origin story in the MCU isn't getting the spider bite. That's already happened.
Yeah.
But it's him losing May and the with great power line and really fully becoming Spider-Man at the end. So I thought this was a really nice blend of, like, Kate already has the talent and skills. It's not like Clint has to teach her how to use a bow.
Yeah.
But it's more about her learning about the realities, embracing it anyway. Made me think a little bit about the film industry. People who make it in the film industry learn the realities of it and do it anyway.
Yeah. You really have to have a lot of love for it to commit that hard.
This is also a Christmas show. This Christmas comes with a bow.
It's a Christmas movie.
That was their slogan. Part of me was like, did you put this at Christmas just to make that pun? I don't think they did.
I don't think so, but I
love
like
it.
I like that it's a Christmas movie.
Okay, the use of Christmas music in the soundtrack.
Yeah.
The Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy as chase scene music. When they reveal it's Kingpin and then they play You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch.
Yeah.
Big fan. Big fan of the soundtrack.
Then you also get like the spirit of Christmas, right? Like the situation is a bit of family trying to come together for Christmas, and it's, you know, this girl who's in trouble, so he's just got to help her. He's got to, you know, Christmas is all about helping people and doing the right thing. And then you just get the fun settings of like,
it's New York at Christmas.
New York at Christmas. Hawkeye gets stuck in a tree. Like,
okay, my one minor complaint is I do feel like Hawkeye could get down from a tree.
But it's funnier if he doesn't.
It's funnier if he doesn't. Oh, and just the line from the tree of, like, it's the big reveal of like all his allies coming together, and Clint's just like, we're all gonna die.
And then you get the classic, like, them coming home, which we've mentioned already.
Yes, and obviously
bringing in the strays. And
there's that sweet thing of, like, earlier Kate went to Clint, who was alone, to bring him, you know, the sweaters and the
some
movies.
Christmas joy.
And they're, like, brainstorming while also setting up a Christmas tree. It's adorable. And then at the end, Clint brings Kate and Lucky home because Kate lost her last family member.
Yeah.
She gets to be Auntie Kate.
Yeah.
That's not in the show. That's just in my head.
Definitely happens.
When I was watching it, I actually wanted him to bring Yelena home as well. I think that would have been too corny.
That probably would have crossed the line a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe next Christmas.
Maybe.
So, we've talked a lot about different tropes, different genres, and we have touched on how we found these were really refreshing, not going for any, like, manufactured drama. They all felt super earned. How about we wrap that up a bit? In a nice bow for Christmas. Merry Christmas!
This is a bit of a stranger one to sort of talk about because tropes are by nature, you know, just repeated elements that we see. And so it's like, how do you earn those? I think what this show has really done is taken the tropes and found a way to make them more honest and to make them truer to character, if that makes sense. So we still get to see the superhero moments, but we also then get to see the results of being a superhero and what that entails and how you have to deal with that. And we get to see, you know, having to solve problems. How do Clint and Kate communicate when he can't hear her? Like, there's all these little things they need to solve. And I think looking for those smaller, lower stakes opportunities to provide little annoyances for your superheroes or little inconveniences and little problems they have to solve. Like, the actual span of this as a superhero movie, or even as a buddy comedy movie, like, the show could be a movie. like in terms of the storyline, if you cut out all the extra stuff, made it a 2-hour Christmas movie kind of thing, it would be Kate gets spotted as the Ronin. Clint has to then deal with the tracksuit mafia. That doesn't work. They get captured. They break out. They fight for a little bit. They come back together with Christmas fun, and then they go take out the tracksuit mafia. Like, you could do a 2-hour version of that, I think. But the fact that they've given it time to really, like, be more honest about the tropes means that we get to see a lot of them and enjoy them, and we get to enjoy the Christmas vibes and all of that, while also experiencing something very new and very fresh in each of those elements. So if you are looking to do that for yourself, I think that's where you need to start to look, is like, what can I add to the trope to make it more original, to make it fresher, rather than just doing the thing that is expected in
And we're not talking about subverting.
No.
That's not what we're talking about.
Because this doesn't try to subvert the tropes.
No.
This goes into them.
So next time you are looking at your moments, your big moments, find them first and then ask yourself, what earns these moments? So for an example, I won't go too much because I know you haven't seen the movie yet. The finale of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I would say that all the characters end up in the right place. But the journey to that final battle scene is not earned for me. Because things happen, I'm like, these are great, and these feel like the right moments. Wasn't really set up. Every moment on the show, the big split up, the getting home for Christmas, the confrontation with Yelena, everything they said I believed. And the thing I really, really learnt from this show, because we're told that conflict is story, right? That's screenwriting 101. That's any writing 101. The thing I really took away from this is you do not need to have conflict between everyone all the time. So that, again, that Clint and Laura relationship, that conversation, is there does not need to be massive conflicts between them. Because they're so sweet and loving, I actually buy that Clint really wants to get back to them.
Yeah.
When Yelena says to Kate, you're so fond of him, I believe that because I've seen how Clint has taken care of her. And when Kate steps up to become a hero and puts her mum in jail, I fully understand how difficult that decision is. And she's an amazing person because she's doing it anyway. So start with the big moments, break them down, and think what will lead to them. And then every scene needs to earn those big moments towards the end.
Yeah. And it's doing that makes the tropes feel more honest, and they hit harder.
They hit really hard. This is a very emotional show.
Yeah. Like, the family stuff hits harder because it's not a dysfunctional family. It's a family that we want to see succeed, because it's like, he loves his family, and like he's doing the right thing and helping this kid out at the risk of his family, and that to us makes him a hero.
Yeah, and I think that's why No Way Home hits so hard as well. Same theme. Doing the right thing and being a hero comes at a personal cost. Yeah. And true heroes do it anyway. So side note, this is a little takeaway. There's a lot of holding back of tears in this show. I think the general rule I like is your characters get to cry once. Yeah. And holding back tears is so much more emotional. I think the only person who outright cries at the end is Yelena. Yes, please do not have your characters crying all the time. There's nothing wrong in life with crying all the time. Yeah. I feel like I brought this up on a previous episode, but I can't remember.
Potentially John Wick.
Potentially.
The script intro for that
I think
is
so.
a lot of crying.
Okay, it really annoys me. It looks bad.
You got to earn it.
You got to earn it.
Hopefully that's helpful. Yes,
Merry Christmas. It's June 2022, but you guys will be hearing this.
Probably around Christmas.
And December 2022, if all goes to plan. And if you have access to the Mac Fraction Hawkeye comic book run, it's one of my favourite pieces of media to ever exist. Please go read it.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Kill the Cat. This is the last episode in our Marvel Madness series. As for what's next, well, stay tuned for an upcoming announcement. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, so feel free to drop us a line. Until next time, happy holidays. This has been Kill the Cat.
They're just two messes trying to make it work, okay?